Hey guys, in my last video I presented evidence toward the possibility that Sans in Undertale came from Deltarune's world. As it turns out, I missed a few pieces, so today I'm going to do a quick overview of those details just for the sake of completion, and also to keep the algorithm fed. Starting off, let's talk about Icy. Icy made his first appearance in Undertale during the word search puzzle scene. This wacky kid's word search puzzle is pretty unassuming on its own. It's a silly gag that has no bearing on Undertale's plot, and with the right fun value, get the Nightmare variant. Fast forward to Deltarune, and Icy is everywhere. We have the warrior in Chapter 1, wearing an Icy costume. We have the pizzeria, complete with several costume workers, including Burger Pants, now Pizza Pants, the ice cream guy, and some weird purple dude. I wonder what game that's a reference to. Even the hometown hospital has a pain scale using Icy's image, which has interesting connotations when you consider other uses of the word pain in both Undertale and Deltarune. There's the cut, la la, wake up and smell the pain text, which is referred to in Spamton's battle, where the text tells you to smell the pain. There's also the lorem ipsum text, which the memory heads spout, and many have linked the memory heads to Gaster. The original lorem ipsum text involves controlling pleasure and pain, which is a further piece of connective tissue. While this doesn't immediately link Sans to these instances, it's a curious connection, and with Sans' Gaster blasters, and the machine in his lab connecting him to Gaster as well, this may add further fuel to the fire, connecting him to the world of Deltarune. Chapter 2 adds some deep Icy lore, as his presence is felt in Cyberfield's many puzzles. Not only is there a callback to the word search in Undertale with Icy's catchphrase, but sometimes the puzzle will make Sans' voice blip when interacting with it. There's also the Icy cryptid in Noel's room. It seems Icy is a big part of Deltarune's culture, with his own movies and everything, and while presumably just a joke now, we could end up visiting the pizzeria as a Dark World later. So, what is this? A call forward? A silly joke given more meat? There are a few other things of note. First is the Alfie's Pizza Call fun event. Some have taken this as a reference to Deltarune, as there are no pizza places shown in the world of Undertale. It could be that this is Deltarune's Alfie's calling across dimensions, as it would fall in line with the other bits of Deltarune foreshadowing in the fun events. But pizza is still referenced a few times in Undertale. For instance, Undyne talks about ordering a pizza if you call her in the MTT hotel room. Washua rinses off a pizza as one of its flavor texts. The dragon NPC in the resort talks about pizza too. Basically, a call about pizza on its own is inconclusive. Still, the absence of Icy specifically does lend itself to the possibility that Sans came from Deltarune's world. There's just one little problem. Papyrus and the sun. In the pacifist ending, Papyrus acts like he's never seen the sun before. While it's true that he does mention the sun earlier in his date, and he also states that he smells like the moon in Waterfall, the possibility exists that he doesn't know what the sun actually looks like and only has second-hand accounts in pop culture to go off of. If this is the case, then this is pretty damning evidence against Papyrus being from Deltarune's world, at least if taken literally. Papyrus could be sincere here, and he's a monster who's never seen the sun. It wouldn't be uncommon in Undertale's world. He could also be feigning ignorance, because if he and Sans really came from a parallel world, that would raise so many uncomfortable questions. It could just be a joke about how Papyrus is a shut-in in Deltarune, and thus wouldn't have spent a lot of time outside. Or it could be that he's an amnesiac and Sans isn't, or that Sans is from Deltarune's world but Papyrus is not. The former, as I said before, leans way too much into Sans' favoritism for my liking, and the latter opens a ton of plot holes on top of also giving Sans special privileges. The problem is, it's such a big hole in the theory without a tangible point to contest it. We can speculate and make excuses all day, but in the end it's just too inconclusive. So, whether Papyrus is from Deltarune's world or not, we just can't say with certainty, and for now, it's just a big question mark. As for Papyrus and Deltarune, a few of my commenters mentioned how no one has mentioned Papyrus by name. As I mentioned in the previous video, that's not quite true. If you input his name as either the player or the avatar, Gaster will say, "How interesting," or "An interesting coincidence." This response is yielded by a few other character names, including QC, Asriel, Jockington, Caddy, Bratty, and Caddy with a Y. But notably not some on-screen characters like Father Alvin, who will probably still have an important role later. On top of that, Papyrus' voice blip is present in the game's file, along with his font, but notably not his portrait. Hey guys, Editing Dorked here again with some additional insight that some friends in my Discord server pointed out. Cake and I'm an Issue used the Undertale mod tool to dig through the Deltarune Chapter 1 and 2 demos files, and they found some neat stuff. For starters, there's a variable in the game called Pap Talk that checks whether or not you talk to Sans about his brother on Chapter 1. This is further evidence that the brother in Deltarune is still Papyrus. Not only that, but the image file of the house is called Paphouse. And interestingly, there are internal tiles of the house that have been replaced with a checkerboard pattern in the Chapter 1 and 2 demo. According to I'm an Issue, tile sets that are rendered as a plain checkerboard are censored, and likely are files that were cut from the public release but will be added in the final game. All this to say, while this doesn't add too much fuel to the speculation fire, it does at least solidify that Papyrus is an important part of Deltarune in some capacity, even if it is just a small cameo. The Distant Trouseling Bones is a direct nod to Bone Trousel, and Papyrus' name is mentioned on the Steam page, so I think it's reasonable enough to assume that Papyrus exists there. Whether or not we see him is up for debate, and we won't know for a few years. Though I will leave us off on something interesting. In the Kickstarter post that first teased Deltarune, we see art of Papyrus in a knight's armor. The post read, "At $45,000, after the development of Undertale, I will write scripts to these two things. When the time comes, I will ask you Kickstarter backers if there are any characters in the game you would like to see or learn more about. I will consider your choices and make a comic about them, guaranteed. The other game, I can't tell you anything about it. Its very nature is shrouded in darkness." Toby later tweeted in 2015, "The success of Undertale has been incredible. Thank you to the artists, the fans, and to my friends for supporting me in 2015. But lately, something has left me feeling unsettled. A burning, inexplicable feeling. You could say its very nature is shrouded in darkness. It's still a bit tangential, especially when Papyrus went through many design phases, including more detailed armor. But hey, who knows? Maybe Papyrus really is the Roaring Knight, and this is what he'll look like in the Dark World. Honestly, it's still a bit of a reach, but food for thought, I suppose." As always, let me know what your thoughts are, and if I missed anything else, feel free to share and discuss. This is a theory that could happen, it could be off base, and we just won't know for a while. Also, please do share, like, comment, etc., but more crucially, I'm curious what sort of content you'd like to see in the future. Undertale and Deltarune will always be a part of this channel, but I'd like to start posting more Inverted Fate content again, such as OST uploads, commentaries and dev talk, along with some story recaps and character deep dives, and analytical videos on other series such as Kingdom Hearts and Sonic. I do want to do this without alienating my fans, however, so if there's a certain frequency that wouldn't be too off-putting, I'd like to know about that, and work with it. I was thinking perhaps putting OST in smaller uploads between bigger projects. More thorough input and content will be available on Patreon, of course. Since I'm self-employed, every little pledge helps, and while I promote it a lot, I do want to stress that I do post a lot of really cool things. Scratch tracks of music, concept art for my projects, early access to scripts and story drafts. There's a lot to see. But with that, I just want to thank you all for watching, and see you next time.